Chandon, why are the courts giving out such harsh sentences to some but not others, it appears? Some of those convicted never even took part in the riots, while others who did have been handed community service.
I think it's quite clear that the government wants to send a very draconian message out to young people out there who had any sympathy even with the uprising or the riot or whatever you want to call it that took place. But never again really can the British government legitimately criticize any other regime in the world for any human rights abuses when, as your report has said, you know, people are facing jail time for scoops of ice cream, for mineral water, one child stealing a dustbin for his mother. So, but you know, people are calling this the lost generation. I think this generation actually has found itself tragically in the way it has, because they have been ignored. And it's not like they weren't saying this and weren't screaming out loudly and clearly through their music and their culture, grime culture especially, which is being criminalized. So I think it's a message, a draconian message that government is sending out. But I think the young people won't be intimidated by this.
But surely the government in this is responding to another large section of British society which is demanding a tough response to what they saw taking place on the streets of London last week.
No, Alice, you're absolutely right. I mean, unfortunately, much of the discourse and the debate about this uprising has been of a very right-wing and draconian nature. But obviously, listen, these young people have been ignored and they've been exploited and oppressed, and they just had no voice. Now, in a very traumatic experience through the rioting, that they have a voice, what is the response again of people is to further criminalize them. So if you're going to further criminalize them, they're going to get more angry. And I'm very, you know, regretful to report that the messages going around the street gangs in London and other parts of England is a competition as to who's going to kill the first policeman. So this is what we're facing in England now. It's a civil war situation which is going to make the rioting previously, excuse the pun, look like child's play, and it may even look like the troubles in Northern Ireland, look like a walk in the park. So we're on the precipice of a very dangerous situation right now.
So do you think that the harsh clampdown that we're seeing on the parts of authorities supported by the Prime Minister David Cameron could backfire?
I think it's already backfiring. I think what I'm hearing from young people out there is that they're incensed that the government cannot see the obviousness of what needs to take place. These people are so alienated, these people are so humiliated and harassed by the police. You can just look at the footage and see the anger coming from our children. And you know, those who have the children are guaranteed the future. The government doesn't have the loyalty of our children, so its future is far from guaranteed.
But Mr. Chandon, what response then do you think would have been the right response for the authorities to have taken to what happened?
Well, it's a response which obviously they're not politically willing to do, but it's one of Keynesian economics. It's very ABC. Generate jobs, put through the jobs, put money in people's pockets, and you generate a moving economy, and all the social ills lessen. But this government is not willing to do that, unfortunately.
And what do you think about one of the measures that's been put forward by David Cameron, saying that he's considering cutting offenders off from social networks? A, could that actually happen? And B, what do you think the ramifications of that could be? I
think this is a drowning man clutching at straws, frankly. You know, nothing is going to stop these young people. They're very sharp. They've learned from the student protest that they're not going to be kettled, that they're going to hit and run, essentially, and they'll find other ways of communicating. These are young people who live in communities with each other. So you can stop these social networks all that you like. It's not going to have a really fundamental adverse impact on the rioting, which will come again quite soon.
And why do you think that these riots happened in the first place? And what should the government be doing to prevent this from happening in the future?
I think, look, the riots took place in England. Why didn't they take place in Scotland? Because the Scottish national government has policies in place to actually address the social ills and the political problems there. England is unwilling. England is still on a right-wing trajectory, and for that they're going to suffer the consequences, unfortunately.
OK, Sukant Chandon, freelance journalist, talking to us from London. Thanks for your thoughts.